In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is...
My husband stopped our fertility treatments after 6 years, and I found a lawyer's card in his pocket, which I later discovered changed everything. My life has completely changed over the last year. My husband Ansel, 32, and I, 34, have been trying to have a child for years. We had been married for over a decade, and specifically for the last 6 years, we had been trying to conceive. I underwent all kinds of fertility treatments that we could afford. Both Ansel and I were exhausted, but we were still determined to have a baby. Each failed attempt broke me a little more, but I clung to hope because I believed that one day it would all be worth it. However, about a year ago, he told me that we should just stop trying. Out of the blue, it was over. I remember that moment very clearly. I had just returned from a doctor's appointment, and I was feeling hopeful because my doctor had proposed a new treatment plan that could work for us. I went home ready to tell Ansel about it, and he just looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Then he dropped the bomb. I don't want to go on with this. At first I laughed because I thought he was joking. We had been at it for 6 years, 6 whole years, and now he was just saying he'd had enough. It didn't make any sense, so I asked him why, and all he said was, "I've just changed my mind," just like that. As if it were a matter of flicking a switch. As if the last 6 years of desolation, of injections, of negative pregnancy tests, of medical visits, of hope and despair, none of that mattered. He had simply changed his mind. I tried to reason with him. I asked him if something had happened, if he was having difficulties with the process, if he was afraid. I even asked him if he was depressed because I couldn't understand how he could just wake up one day and decide that he didn't want this anymore. I begged him to at least give me a proper explanation, but he didn't. He would simply end each conversation with the same answer. "I don't want to go through with this." For months, I tried to get him to talk. I tried different approaches, being patient, getting angry, crying, ignoring him, pretending that everything was normal in the hope that he would change his mind. But nothing worked. He had completely shut me out, and that's when the paranoia started to set in. What if he was hiding something? What if he was keeping a secret from me? Because none of this made sense. So I started investigating. I know, I hate being that person. I never thought I'd be the wife who secretly checks her husband's phone. But I was desperate. I needed answers. So one day, while he was in the shower, I checked his phone. Nothing. Not a single suspicious message. No calls from unknown numbers. No strange emails. Just the usual work stuff. Messages with his mother. Some memes from his friends. It made me feel like a horrible person for even suspecting him. And then, about a week later, I found it. I was doing the laundry when I reached into the pocket of his jeans and pulled out a business card. At first, I didn't think much of it. I assumed it was something work-related. But then I really looked at it, and my heart stopped. It was a business card for a divorce lawyer. My stomach sank, so fast I thought I was going to faint. My hands trembled as I turned the card over, hoping, praying that maybe it was old. Maybe it wasn't his. Maybe there was some logical explanation. But then I had a worse thought. What if he had already contacted them? So, of course, I checked his phone again. This time, I examined his call history, and there it was. A call to that exact number. From a month ago, a whole month ago. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred, and I had to sit down. This man, my husband, the person I had built my life with, had already taken the first step to leave me, and I had no idea. While I cried myself to sleep at night because of the failed pregnancy tests, while I clung to every shred of hope, while I thought we were in this together, he had been planning his exit. I thought maybe there was a logical explanation. Maybe the lawyer was an old friend, or maybe Ansel was helping someone else with their divorce. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, even though my gut was screaming at me that something was very, very wrong. So I went straight to the living room where Ansel was watching a game, business card in hand, and I asked him about it. At first, he played it down and said that some guy had given it to him. But it didn't mean anything. But the moment I mentioned that I had seen his call history and knew that he had contacted this lawyer, his whole expression changed. The color drained from his face, and for a split second, he looked like a deer caught in the headlights. And then, instead of answering me, he got angry. He turned the situation around, accusing me of going through his phone, as if that was the real problem. That reaction told me everything. I kept pushing, asking him what was going on, telling him he deserved to know, and that's when he finally admitted it. He wanted a divorce. I don't even know how to describe what I felt at that moment. The word shock is not strong enough. I think my brain just stopped working for a second. I had spent more than a decade building a life with this man. We had been trying for years to have a baby, going through hell together, supporting each other through disappointment after disappointment. And now, he was saying he didn't want any of it. He didn't want me. I asked him why, because none of it made sense. How do you go from desperately wanting to start a family with someone to just deciding you don't love them anymore? But that's exactly what he said. He didn't love me anymore. And then he said something that completely broke me. He told me it was good we never had a baby, because otherwise we'd both be trapped in this marriage forever. I think that was the moment when I really felt my heart break. I had spent years mourning every failed attempt, every negative pregnancy test, believing that we were going through it together. I thought he was hurting too. And now he was standing there, saying it was a good thing, as if all those years of trying, all those nights of crying together, meant absolutely nothing to him. I couldn't even process it. I told him I needed time, I needed space. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door before completely collapsing in front of him. I don't even remember driving. I just got in the car and drove off. I had no destination. I just needed to be somewhere else. At some point, I ended up in a random parking lot. I turned off the car and just sat there, clinging to the steering wheel, feeling like I couldn't breathe. And then came the tears, loud, heart-wrenching sobs, the kind that make your whole body shake. It was as if my brain had been holding it all in until I was alone. And then, suddenly, it all came crashing down. None of this felt real. How do you go from spending more than a decade with someone planning a future together to them deciding they no longer want it? Just like that? I was surprised at how casual he was about it all. As if he were canceling a gym membership, not a decade-long marriage. This man, the same man who had helped me through some of my darkest moments, who had promised me forever, was just sitting there, watching a game as if I hadn't just shattered my whole life. I had a feeling in my stomach that there was more to this story. Something in the way he was acting. He was too cold, too distant. People don't just wake up one day and decide they no longer love someone, do they? There had to be something else. So I went home. My hands were still shaking when I walked through the door. He was exactly where I had left him, sitting in the living room, watching TV as if none of this had affected him. As if he hadn't just told his wife of 10 years that he no longer loved her. I stood there for a second, just looking at him, wondering how I could ever have thought I knew this person. Then I finally said it. I told him I needed answers. Did he deserve answers? And then I asked the question I had been too afraid to say out loud before. Is there someone else? I knew the answer the moment the words came out of my mouth. I didn't even need him to answer me. His whole face changed. Even so, I needed to hear it from him. I wasn't going to let him get away with vague, meaningless answers. And then he said it. Yes, he had fallen in love with someone else, a new colleague. Things had moved quickly between them. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, but he wasn't finished. Because then, in the same expressionless tone, he told me that this woman, this random coworker, was pregnant. That he was going to be a father with her, that he wanted to spend his life with her now. I swear, for a second, I thought I might faint. We had been trying for 6 years. 6 years of fertility treatments, heartbreak, miscarriages, failed attempts, supporting each other through the worst pain imaginable. 6 years of thinking we were in this together. And now, just like that, he was going to have a baby with her. Just like that, I was throwing away everything we had built, everything we had survived, for a woman I hadn't known for, what? A few months. I don't even remember making the decision. I just told her to leave immediately. She didn't argue. She didn't try to explain. She didn't even seem sorry. She just laughed. And now I'm sitting here in an empty house, writing this on Reddit, because I honestly have no idea how to process this. I feel like my whole life has been taken away from me, and I don't even recognize the person I thought I was married to. Help me, Reddit. How do I even begin to get through this? Update 1. Hi everyone. I know it's only been a day, but I feel like I've lived a lifetime in the last 24 hours. My emotions are all over the place. One second I feel numb, the next I feel like I'm going to explode. I barely slept last night. Every time I close my eyes, my mind just replays everything over and over again, like a cruel movie I couldn't turn off. I thought I had reached my breaking point yesterday, but apparently there was still more to break. This morning I got a message from one of our mutual friends. They said they had seen Ansel last night. He wasn't in a hotel or staying with a friend. He had spent the night at home, at the other woman's house. I don't even know why it hit me so hard. I mean, logically, I already knew that he had chosen her. He literally told me that he was going to spend his life with her, but seeing it, hearing that he had gone straight from breaking my heart to sleeping in another woman's bed, that was something else. That was another level of pain. I don't even know what I felt at that moment. Betrayed, humiliated, angry. All at the same time, I think. It was like someone had thrown ice water over me. As if my whole body was numb, but my chest was on fire. I just sat there, staring at my phone, trying to process it. And then, just when I thought my day couldn't get any worse, Ansel sent me a text message. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an explanation. It was a simple, cold message, telling me that I should get a lawyer and start the divorce proceedings as soon as possible. That was it. That was the whole message. No emotion, no regret. Just business. I don't know why I expected anything else. I guess some stupid part of me thought that maybe, just maybe after a decade together, after everything we'd been through, he'd at least feel something. But no. I guess he was ready to erase me from his life, as if I were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. I spent the rest of the day trying to keep it together. I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I just sat there in silence, staring at the walls of our house, wondering how it had all come to this. And then in the afternoon, Ansel came back. I didn't expect to see him so soon. I thought he would at least wait a few days before showing up. But no, he just walked in as if he still lived here, as if nothing had changed. He said he needed to take some of his things. That was it. No small talk. No asking how I was, straight to the point. And that's when I exploded. I had been holding it in all day, trying to process, trying to be rational. But the second I saw him standing there, acting like this was just another normal day, something inside me broke. I started to scream, really scream. I don't even know what I was saying half the time. I think I just wanted him to feel something. I wanted him to understand how much he had hurt me, how much he had destroyed me. I wanted him to react. But he just sat there, calm, expressionless, as if he had been waiting for this moment and had already decided that it wasn't going to affect him. And then he said something that took my breath away. He told me that we were never happy. Not just that he wasn't happy. We weren't happy. As if the last 10 years of my life had been a lie. As if I had imagined all the good times, all the love, all the moments when I thought we were building something real. I don't even know how to describe how that felt. It was as if my own memories were psychologically manipulating me. I began to question everything. Had I really been so blind? Had I been deceiving myself all this time? Was our marriage just a long, slow train wreck, and I was the only one who didn't see it coming? I wanted to argue. I wanted to shout that he was wrong, that we were happy, that we had fought for this marriage together for years. But the words got stuck in my throat because suddenly I wasn't sure anymore. Maybe he had been deceiving me. Maybe I had spent the last decade convincing myself that we were happy because the truth was too painful to face. I had nothing left to say after that. She took some of her things and left without looking back. I feel empty. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how to start over. I don't even know how to get out of bed tomorrow. I just know that the life I thought I had is gone. So yeah, that's where I am. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Update 2. Hey everyone. I know I haven't posted an update in the last 2 months, but honestly, I've just been dealing with the absolute mess that my life has become. The last time I posted, Ansel was gone and I was trying to process everything. Since then, I got myself a lawyer, which, by the way, is way more exhausting than I ever imagined. The whole divorce process is a nightmare. So much paperwork, so many meetings. Each one just feels like reopening a wound that has barely begun to heal. But that's not even the weird part. A few days ago, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I wouldn't have answered, but I've been getting calls from my lawyer, and I didn't want to miss anything important. The woman on the other end introduced herself as Amber. She said she knew my husband, and just like that, my stomach dropped. I didn't even let her finish before I told her I had nothing to say to her and hung up. I mean, what could she possibly have to say to me? I didn't need an apology. I didn't need to hear her try to justify what she and Ansel had done. I was done with all of that. But then, a few minutes later, I got a text. She said there was something I needed to know, that it would be better if we met in person. At first, I hesitated. I didn't know her anything. And honestly, I was tired of feeling like I was the one picking up the pieces, while Ansel could just walk around without facing any consequences. But something in her message got through to me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need to closure. Maybe it was just some stupid part of me that still wanted to understand how everything had gone so wrong. So I agreed to meet her. Yesterday, we met at a restaurant. I don't even know what I expected, but I didn't expect Amber to be so young. She looked very young, maybe 21 or 22. Seeing her in person made me feel sick. I kept thinking about how much older Ansel is than her, how she had been with me for 10 years, and yet she had the audacity to run away and start a new life with someone who had barely left college. She seemed nervous. And then, before I could say anything, she told me straight out that she was the woman Ansel had gotten pregnant with. I told her I figured as much. She nodded. Then she told me something I wasn't expecting. She said she wanted to apologize to me, that she had no idea Ansel was married. At first, I just stared at her. I almost laughed. There was no way she didn't know. She worked with him. She had to have known. How could she not? But then she shook her head and told me she wasn't his colleague. I didn't understand. That was the story Ansel had given me. That was the story I had been repeating in my head for months. The one that had been keeping me awake at night. But Amber wasn't his coworker. She didn't even work in the same industry. She was a waitress in a restaurant. Ansel had visited it once. That's how they met. And when he met her, he wasn't wearing his wedding ring. He told her he had been divorced for years. I swear I felt like I was going to throw up right there in the middle of the restaurant. I don't know why this hit me harder than anything else, but it did. Somehow, in all of this, I still thought there was some version of the truth in Ansel's story. Some version of events where he had at least struggled with his decision. Where maybe things had just gotten out of hand. But no, he had been lying from the start. He had met her under false pretenses. He had built an entire relationship with her based on a lie. And it worked. She believed him. She trusted him. And then, like me, she was surprised by the truth. She found out when she saw a text message on his phone from a friend asking him how the divorce was going. That's when she confronted him. That's when he finally told her the truth. He told me that he kicked him out immediately, that he wanted nothing to do with him, that he texted me because he felt I deserved to know. I just sat there staring at her, not knowing what to say. For the first time in months, I didn't feel jealous of her. I didn't feel like she had stolen anything from me. I just felt sorry for her. She was another one of Ansel's victims. She kept apologizing. Although I never blamed her, she was never the one who broke my marriage vows. She was never the one who betrayed me. It was all him. We talked for a while after that. I don't even remember most of the conversation. It was all just a blur of emotions, anger, sadness, exhaustion. But when she told me she was finished with Ansel, that she wanted nothing to do with him, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Not because I wanted Ansel back, but because for the first time since this nightmare began, he was the one losing everything. Amber had finished with him. She was moving on. And for the first time, I hoped it would hurt him. I hoped he would feel a fraction of the pain he had put me through. I hoped he would realize that he had thrown everything away. His marriage, his reputation, his future, for nothing. After we finished talking, I left. I don't know what will happen next. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I'll update you when I can. Update 3. Hi everyone. I'm back with some updates. It's been a crazy few months, and I've had a lot to process. About 3 months ago, Amber kicked Ansel out of their house, and it was one of the most difficult moments of my life. I really thought I had reached some kind of closure after that conversation with her. I honestly thought it was finally over for everyone involved. But then, just a few days after posting my last update, I got a call from Ansel. He didn't know that Amber and I had spoken. At first, I thought it was just about the divorce, or maybe he was calling to finalize things, but no. He had something completely different to say. We agreed to meet in a park near our house, and I remember walking there with so many emotions in my chest. Part of me felt a little nervous, and part of me was angry. Part of me didn't even know what to expect. I was trying to prepare myself for whatever came, but when he started talking, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He sat down and looked at me, and he told me that he wasn't going to marry Amber because he still loved me. I honestly didn't know what to say. I was so surprised. I just looked at him for a second, trying to process what he was saying. He went on, though, saying that he just got too excited about the baby and couldn't think straight. He said he wanted to work on our marriage and that we should keep trying for a baby. I was sitting there completely baffled. I mean, how could he think I could just come back and act as if everything was fine? As if we could just pick up where we left off. All those months of betrayal, lies, and pain. He thought he could erase it with a few words. I didn't even know how to respond at first, but I couldn't let him see how much his words affected me, so I decided to play along. I wanted to see where this was going, and maybe, just maybe, I would get more truth out of him. So I asked, what about the baby? He said the baby would still be in his life, but not Amber. He told me he didn't love her. He loved me. I was honestly disgusted, but I kept playing the game. I said, but our divorce is almost finalized. And then he told me that we didn't have to sign the papers. He said we could still work things out. And it was at that moment that I realized that I wasn't just dealing with someone cruel. I was dealing with a man who was willing to lie right to my face to get what he wanted. So there I was, listening to all this, and part of me just wanted to scream, but I kept quiet. I wanted him to talk more, to dig himself in deeper. I wanted to hear him admit, even if he didn't know it, how selfish and manipulative he was being. I told him I would think about it, but in my mind, I already knew what I was going to do. Over the next month, I acted as if I were considering working things out. I would listen when he called. I would even respond when he asked about my feelings. I took it easy, but all the time I was making moves behind the scenes. I gave our landlord notice. I had already found a new place for myself. I had signed the divorce papers and told my lawyer in no uncertain terms that I wanted the papers signed and that I wanted no contact with Ansel. I felt like I was regaining control of my life, piece by piece. A couple of weeks ago, Ansel received the divorce papers. Of course, he called me immediately. I answered, and the moment I heard his voice, I told him exactly what I thought of him. He deserved to be surprised because that's exactly what he did to me all those months. He was a selfish and self-centered asshole. I told him that I knew it was Amber who left him, not the other way around. He had been lying to me, and I wasn't going to let him manipulate me anymore. I told him to sign the papers and never to contact me again. I'm not going to lie. It felt so good to finally tell him those things. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and for the first time in months, I felt free. After that, I blocked him on everything. Phones, social media, everything. I wanted no more contact with him. No more drama, no more games. He tried calling my family and friends, but no one entertained him. They all backed me up. It was nice to know that, even though this whole thing was a disaster, I still had people who supported me, who saw through Ansel's lies. He didn't get it at first, though. He kept trying to contact me, but I wouldn't give in. He finally got it, and yesterday he signed the divorce papers. On top of that, Ansel had been begging Amber to take him back while he tried to patch things up with me. I found out about this from a mutual acquaintance of ours. After Amber kicked him out, he went into total desperation mode. He would send her text messages, call her, even show up at her house, trying to convince her that he had made a mistake. He kept saying that he was sorry for what had happened, that he was confused, and that he still wanted to be with her. But Amber wasn't having any of it. Finally, after weeks of calls and pleas, she couldn't take it anymore and blocked him. She was simply done with him. I want to thank everyone who has supported me during this journey. Your comments, advice, and encouragement have meant a lot to me. It's not easy going through something like this, but having people to talk to, even if only online, has been a lifeline. So, yes, that's the update. I'm starting over, and I'm ready for whatever comes next. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I'll keep you posted if anything else comes up.